Okay, so thank you all for coming to the chat, and we're going to start with old business. And basically, for the old business for this chat, since this is our first chat, we're just going to talk about kind of the background of where this president's guide idea came from, and then my ideas that I've been thinking about and having with the guide. So as far as background with the president's guide, this is actually one of my goals that I listed in my bid for this position. And it came from wanting to create some sort of resource for new presidents and even current presidents. A lot of times I've realized with our schools, transitioning is very hard and it isn't always done, especially for SWCR related things. So even schools that do have good transitioning with their RHA execs, they'll transition things about what happens on the campus level, but not all the time do they transition the SWCR related stuff. So I wanted to create a resource for presidents as they come into their position so that they kind of get that transition into the region and they kind of understand what's going on. Also, I've noticed we do have a lot of turnover throughout the year with RHA presidents. So as they come in, the COPR can utilize this to kind of get those people up to speed with where they need to be. So a couple ideas that I've had with what I want to be included in this, which honestly, I'm using y'all as like a sounding board. I've never been an RHA president. I like to think that I know what things would be beneficial for RHA presidents, but y'all are kind of in the thick of everything. So y'all really know, like, oh, I wish I would have known this. Oh, having this as a resource would be really helpful. But some of the ideas that I've had are welcome to the region. So a letter from the COPR with the idea that each new COPR that comes into the position will write a new letter to RHA presidents, just kind of welcoming them, maybe giving kind of a little background of who they are, and just welcoming them to the region. I want there to be a brief history of the region and NCUR. So there are full histories on the website, which we could link to this resource so that they can just click on the link and it'll bring them to those histories. But just kind of hitting the high points of SWCR history and NCUR history. Who is SWCR? Who is NCUR? What's the relationship between those? What are the expectations of presidents for each of those? You know, what are your expectations on the regional level? What are your expectations for NCUR? I want to put in important contact information. So that will be the contact information for all of the regional board members, and maybe even kind of like brief descriptions of what those regional board members do. So that way a president can know, you know, oh, we're having trouble with our finances and I'd really like to get some help and advice on how to, you know, make our budget a little better. Oh, it says right here, there's an associate director for administration and finance. Maybe I can just reach out to that person. Something like that. So that way there's a little description and then how to contact that individual. And then also with the NCUR execs. Usually RHA presidents don't really reach out to the NCUR execs as much, but I think having it in there just listed as a resource may improve that. So I do want to include that a little. I want there to be an acronym guide for sure. I think this is probably going to be one of the most beneficial things because I can say, you know, NAA all I want, but if you don't know that that's the NCUR Associate for Administration, then it doesn't do any good for you. So I do think that an acronym guide is going to be necessary for this. A description of conferences. So I want to talk about Regional Leadership Conference, Regional Business Conference, and the NCUR Annual Conference. I want to talk about the roles of presidents at those conferences because they are a little different. What's expected of presidents at leadership, at business, and at NCUR Annual Conference. So just kind of have that in the guide for presidents to know off the bat what to look forward to at those conferences. I want to talk a little bit about conference prep. So maybe some things that they can do to help prepare themselves for the conferences, and then any tips and advice that we could give for a president going into each of these conferences. The next thing that I'd like to see is how to work with an NCC section. And y'all know that I've talked about this a couple times before, particularly around conference season. But I am a very big advocate on the NCC being the primary person in charge of conferences. That is one of their positional duties. And if it's not seen that way on your campus, it should be seen that way. Because as far as the region is concerned, the NCC is the primary contact and the go-to person as far as conferences are related. But that can put a lot of stress and strain on the relationship between NCCs and presidents, because as presidents, you're all used to kind of being that main go-to person on your campus. So sometimes, and I've seen it many, many times, that can cause rifts in that relationship. And it can be kind of hard for presidents and NCCs to work together during conference time. So maybe knowing that, just providing some useful tips on, how to work within NCC, what should be the president's role at a conference, what should be the NCC's role for a conference, and how y'all can work together to help make the conference experience the best that it can be. Talking to different positions. So I want to get advice from me, so from the COPR, who is, kind of oversees presidents at conferences, from the director who oversees NCCs at conferences, and then from presidents and NCCs themselves, getting some advice on, what that relationship should feel like and should act like. And then lastly, an idea I had was just a list of resources. So all the resources available to presidents and how to find them, which is now going to be a lot easier because over the break, I created the resource library, which lists all of the resources that I currently have available for presidents. And obviously that can always be updated as new COPRs create new resources. We have new things available. But just having maybe the link to that resource library located in the guide. So that way incoming presidents know everything that they have available to them for that. So that's kind of just the background on everything. We are going to get into a section where we can talk about all of the ideas that you all have. But does anyone have any questions on anything that I've talked about so far? All right, cool. Well, then we'll move into the new business section. So what I want to start off talking about is just kind of like brainstorm session. What do y'all think should be included in this president's guide? And feel free to list some of the things that I have from up top and some of my ideas. But I'd also like to hear what y'all think. And if you think that one of the ideas I have from up top maybe shouldn't be in a president's guide, or it doesn't need to be in a president's guide, but it should be a resource by itself, anything like that. I want to hear your ideas. So put an X in the chat and let's just start brainstorming. Okay, Demonte?
Yeah, I don't know exactly like what form this would take in the guide, but I think for like a new president, it can kind of be difficult to conceptualize what your role in the region is, like not just at conferences, but like in the region as a whole. So just like what exactly all is expected of a president when it comes to their responsibility to the region.
Okay, so maybe having like a list of regional duties and expectations put into the guide. So knowing, as an RHA president, here are all of the things that you need to do with the region. You need to show up to regional chats. You need to show up to, coffee with the copper chats. You need to show up to, if you're going to be a part of task forces, be a part of task force chats and all of those things. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I do want to get to that. but I don't think that I should do it alone. So I do think that utilizing this kind of group, we can come up with that kind of list of duties and expectations. I do want to say that for NACUR, there's a NACUR President's Task Force, and then also I've mentioned before, me and all of my counterparts in the other regions, we sit on a catalyst together. And the task force and the catalyst are going to be working together this spring to come up with a NACUR-wide, I guess, set of duties for presidents. So as far as NACUR is concerned, what should presidents be expected to do? So we're creating that on a NACUR level. Obviously for SWCUR, there are going to be some unique things and some different things. So I think putting together this list for our region is going to be necessary as NACUR starts to try to define what that looks like. So good, I like that. And if we can include in the minutes just a note so that I don't forget, there is a section in the bylaws that does outline regional duties of presidents. So let's make sure that we go over that section of the bylaws. And, we could write legislation for business conference. What do we think needs to be changed? What needs to be added to that? Let's really kind of shape up what that section looks like. Awesome. I love the idea. Stephanie.
Things I didn't know about when I first started as a president and going into conference was what the conference was. And my RHA, it's pretty small, so if there's like a little guide that explained what the conference was or what our duties were supposed to do, like the bids, I had no idea what to do for them. And then and during one of our video chats, you started talking about them, and I started freaking out a bit because me and my NCC, we don't communicate as well as we should. So I'm usually left in the dust, not knowing what to do and doing things last minute.
Sure.
And so to be more effective, I want to know what kind of duties I have to do and like what all these different conferences are.
Okay.
Helpful.
Okay, yeah. I think we can definitely do that. And then just highlighting the resources that are available. So there are bid guides that are out there. So maybe linking in the bid guides as a resource. We have duck crossings that in the fall that talk about bidding and conferences and stuff. So maybe including some more of those things would be good. I like that. Tesla?
Okay, all I was gonna say was it was really kind of a question if we just kind of included the bylaws into our reference list, our resource list, and then like I was gonna say something like about how kind of like what Stephanie said about the how to do a bid intents. I know we have the guideline and I know we do the duck crossings, but for me personally, whenever I became president, like literally the last day of school last year, and my advisor told me, okay, well, anytime this summer you should get a call, and I never got a call until like don't say anything. Sorry, I never got a call until about like mid-semester, like before, well, not mid-semester, but like not too long before the actual conference. And so for me, it was hard, like, figuring out everything Stephanie was talking about because everything had already happened. Everyone's things, duck crossings and chats had already happened, and I already missed them.
I wonder if, so y'all know how sometimes I'll go on Zoom by myself and record myself giving a presentation or some sort of update or something. So that way it's not a chat that you have to like take time out to go and attend, but it's a recording with lots of information that you can watch on your own time. I almost wonder if it would be beneficial for me or for Steven, the new Corn, to just create a video presentation of what is bidding, what do bids look like, what goes into bidding, and all of that stuff, that we can just use every single year to just keep out there as a resource of, you know, so you can't make it to a duck crossing, you don't know when the duck crossing is, whatever. There's always this video that we can use as a resource for how to do bids. I think that that would be very beneficial. Nick.
So I kind of actually just want to second like the things that were just said there too, and kind of going off that. I guess also as well, I don't know if we would want to do like maybe some kind of, if there was some kind of like introductory like orientation recording or something maybe to go along with it, maybe covered some important things. I know like whenever one of the things that like whenever you first like become a president and you like realize like the scope of SWOCR, and then like at first things like the policy and like the policy book and all the resources and that stuff is a little overwhelming. Yeah. So maybe like kind of an orientation like brief, you know, like video just kind of outlining things, and then like kind of going back to what was kind of said towards the start too. If there's like maybe pointing out like some of the key like parts in the bylaws that like we should know as presidents, like maybe pointing those out like in the president's guide. So like the part that describes what we actually do and stuff like that.
Yeah. And let's for a little bit. What do we feel should be covered in like an introduction orientation video? And I will get back to you, DeMonte. I don't want to have you lose your thought. But going on this, because I think that this is going to be a project that I'll work on with the new COPR once that individual gets elected. And so that way it's not me, but then I'm leaving, so all the new presidents are watching this introduction video from someone who they're not going to be working with, but actually having that new person do the video themselves. So what do we want to see included in that? Tesla?
Okay, this might not be very specific, but just kind of the things that we talked about in the guide, like wrap up, like Nick said, kind of wrap up SWOCR, wrap up everything, and then wrap up the guide. That way they always have the guide, and then they have the orientation video. I don't know if I was just seconding or if I'm adding on. I don't know. But I just feel like, I don't know. I like the idea of the video, and I don't know anything specific besides just like hitting some of the point, like he said, hitting some of the points that are in the bylaws regarding specifically us, and then just some of the things that we put in our guide.
Okay. So maybe the guide itself. So y'all know how for leadership conference, I made a video that like walked through the boardroom website, and basically the entire video was just walking through the website. Maybe it's something like the orientation video is like walking through the president's guide and just giving more information and kind of explanation about things that would be included in the president's guide. I like it. And I'm just gonna brainstorm real quick. As soon as you're done typing, I'm gonna go ahead and just type some things. Oh, where'd it go? Okay. Okay, so we'll have like the COPR give a welcome. Talk about kind of role and expectations of presidents in SWOCR. Introduction to Zoom, because I feel like that's always kind of for your first Zoom chat, you don't really know what to do. So introduction to Zoom. And then with those roles and expectations, explaining chats and like what those are, why they're important, explaining conferences, And so in that, how presidents can prepare, bids, boardroom, and then let's say group me. So like interacting with other presidents. Ask questions, those sorts of things. Okay, can y'all think of any other kind of just brainstorm things that you would like to see in an introduction video? Yeah, Alicia?
I think acronyms would also be a good thing to include in the orientation video.
So kind of hinting back to the acronym guide in the president's guide, but actually going through the acronyms in the video. Yeah. And then maybe just like resources. So walking through the resource library and just explaining everything that's out there and available to them. Because I do think that at first, people are very like intimidated by RBD members and conference staff and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, once you get comfortable with an RBD member, you'll then go to that RBD member for everything. And I think it's important to kind of say like, you should be comfortable with all RBD members, including the conference chairs and stuff. So like, if you have a conference question, you can just go straight to the conference chairs to ask them. If you have a marketing question, you can go straight to the CO for marketing and technology and ask them. If you have like a question that needs to go to the director, like don't be afraid to just go and talk to the director. I think all of those things would be useful and beneficial to just get out there. Okay, I think that's a good little mini brainstorm session for this video. And I think that's an awesome idea that I really look forward to working with the next COPR on. Okay, Alicia, we can go back to normal minutes. Demonte, you had an idea earlier.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like in addition to what I said earlier, going back to an idea that you mentioned, I think in our last chat, just like campus, region, even national balance, because I know it's a regional guide, so we want most of it to be like regional, like focus on what we do in the region. But if I'm being honest, as an RHA president, the bulk of what I do is on campus, but I'm increasingly, increasingly understanding that I do have to have a role in the region. So just kind of thinking about how we explain to future presidents what that balance should look like between what you do on the campus, what you do with the region, and I guess what you do on the national level.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Okay, Taylor, I'm gonna pick on you for a little bit just because you're the new president here. By the way, everyone, this is Taylor. So you're a brand new president stepping into this role. Is there anything that you can think of that wasn't already mentioned that you would think like, as a new president, I really wish I would have known X or had X explained to me better or something like that?
Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of what everybody else said already. Just all that, of course, and just the big like, what's next step? You know, like what? I don't know. I guess just basically what everybody else said, just tied together.
Cool.
But yeah, that guy will really help out a lot.
Yeah. Okay, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like everything that we've said now will be beneficial. So I think this is going to be a great guide. So the next thing that I'd like to talk about is Lorenzo posted in the group. Okay. can we also talk about tips to get into building up our e-board leadership at our school in the guide? Do y'all feel like that's something that you would want in the president's guide, or do you want to just make sure that I put in my transition to the next COPR, talk about this in like a coffee with the copper or something early in the year, as opposed to like later in the year? Because I do understand like wanting to make sure that it gets to presidents early, so that way they can, from the start, really start building up their e-boards. But I just don't know if it's something to put into the guide or if it's something to have a whole separate resource for it. Demonte?
I agree that it should be a chat, and I also think it should be on like the individual presidents to kind of like in their transition documents or whatnot, kind of talk about that aspect of the job in their own transition documents.
So I'm almost wondering if I should work on creating like a template transition document for presidents, so that way y'all can go through and kind of like, because I know a lot of y'all have probably never really done a transition or filled out a transition document before. So like, it's just something that's like a structure of make sure that you talk about these things and all this, and then include tips on how to build up your e-board. So like advice that you as a president have learned on how to build up your e-board, so that the next person coming in already has those and can start implementing those from the beginning. So things like, you know, oh, I wished I really would have had, you know, a leadership training before the semester started in the fall. So like start planning a leadership training now for the fall semester, something like that. I like that. Okay. Cool. And it's in the minutes, so I won't forget. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was, now let me make sure that I'm not missing anything else in any group me's. Okay, cool. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was how are we going to go about creating this? I don't want y'all to feel like y'all have to take on any additional work or anything too much. But I do like the idea of getting y'all's input and having help with this, because I do think it's so important to have y'all giving input on what this will look like, because like I said before, y'all are the one in the trenches. Y'all know what's going to be most beneficial and most helpful for presidents. So where do y'all see the balance? Do y'all think that I could like open this up to presidents to say, you know, if you want to, you know, take on a complete portion of this to be like, you know, the acronym guide, like I will go through and create the full list of acronyms or something? Or do y'all think that it should be little chats like this, like, hey, I'm going to be working on the, you know, the role and expectations of presidents in the region. Come on this chat at this date and time if y'all want to help me create that. Like, where do y'all think the balance should be? Because I know some presidents might be able to say like, yeah, I'll take on, you know, a full section of it, no problem. But others might be like, you know, I'll give my ideas, but I'm really busy, you know, on campus right now. And so I really want to, you know, focus more on that stuff, but I'll give my ideas. So I just want to make sure that I'm not limiting anyone with how they can help. Demonte?
I'm talking a lot, I'm sorry. But I think there's power in collaboration. So I like the idea of there being like chats where we can all like talk about a section. just so like the section isn't just one president's vision of the section. Yeah, and so everyone can have their input.
Yeah, Nick.
I agree as well. I think that would be good. I think maybe doing it that way, because I know like a lot of us will probably be getting pretty busy soon, but I like the idea of like doing it collaboratively. So I kind of like that way.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm almost wondering if there's an opportunity at the business conference to be able to take some time to, collectively go over this, especially since at conferences is when we get the most involvement from people. So like, since we're all going to be in the same room and it's going to be literally like all 30 something of us, to be able to sit down and kind of go over it, that might be a possibility. Okay, I like that though. And it keeps me accountable because it'll make sure that I'm working on sections and actually getting them done. So that'll be nice. Cool. And I'll try to come, like I did with this, come prepared with like my thoughts on everything beforehand. So like, if we're going to talk about the acronym guide and, the group me all at the same time, have my list of all the acronyms that I think should be included. And then during the chat, we can kind of go over that list and say, is there anything that needs to be added to this? Something like that. So that way it's not completely creating something at the chat, but kind of giving feedback and working collaboratively on it at the chat. I think that'll work nicely. Do y'all think that would be like too many chats? Because I know we have, 2 chats a semester, and y'all have, task force chats if you're part of task forces and everything. Like, do y'all think that having more chats, like, come to this President's Guide chat if you want to give your thoughts on it, like, that would be too much? Demonte?
I think a good way maybe to still have the collaboration, but not like so many chats, is maybe like open up a Google Drive where everyone can look at the section as it's being worked on, or whatever the case may be. You can do comments on that section. It might allow people to have a hand in creating the section, but cut down on chats. It's an idea.
Okay. I can probably do that. I was thinking about creating the document itself on Canva, but I can create the information in like a Google Doc and then just transfer that information to Canva and make it look pretty on there. Alicia?
I was gonna say that maybe at like every president's chat and every like coffee with the copper, maybe like one of the first things we talk about or one of the last things that we can talk about is maybe an update from the President's Guide people, and then we can ask them like, oh, what are some like advice that you want us to give future presidents, or what are some acronyms you want to include? So that way it can be kind of like an open forum, and then we can take everything they say and add it to whatever we're working on.
I like that. And I think that's what I'm going to end up potentially doing. At least, that and then some. Like, at least I think I'll mention updates each president's chat. Like, here's an update on where we are with the President's Guide. What are y'all thoughts? Anything like that. I think that's nice. Tesla?
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of like Alicia said, just she said both, but yeah, at one of our chats, just kind of throw it in there too, like in the open forum, like she said. But I like Demonte's idea too, just having that in Google Drive, just so everybody can just put in a few words here and a few words there, a few ideas or whatever. You don't have to create it on there, just some ideas at least always could be contributed. But
Yeah, I like that. Cool. So the next thing is I have what should it look like? And I think that this may be a question for later. But if anyone has any kind of ideas, like I said, I was thinking of making this on Canva to try to make it. And just so that y'all know, the compensation survey results and the positional email guide, both of those were created on Canva. So it would look something similar to that. But I think that kind of what we've talked about, like including links in things, making videos, those sorts of things will be beneficial to the end product. So not just having text, but links to things in the text will be helpful. Any just kind of brainstormy thoughts on kind of what it should look like, things that it should include, final thoughts like that? Taylor.
Okay, so everybody else has to do with Parley Pro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe we can include a little bit on that, because coming in, I had no knowledge about parliamentary procedure. So,
Of course.
so it'll help our meetings go smoother if we actually know, what to say and when to say it, things like that.
Definitely. I think that'd be very helpful.
But yeah.
Anything else? Okay. So things to complete for the next chat. So I think I'm going to probably, as I'm creating things, create them in a Google Doc that will be in the President's Guide folder. So that way all presidents at all times have access to just go in and view what's happening. And then also give updates at the monthly informational chats. But I do want to have kind of like monthly chats like this one, so that I just open it up to presidents as y'all want to specifically come and give feedback on President's Guide things. We can have monthly chats like this. So for me to complete for next chat, let me see. Alicia, can you type statements? So like B, then C, then D, then E, so on and so forth. And I'll just run through the list of everything that we want to include in the President's Guide, just so that I have a full list of it. And then from there, I can pick what I will have done by the next chat. So welcome to the region. Brief history of the region and NCUR. Important contact info. Acronym guide. Description of conferences. How to work with an NCC. List of resources. Regional duties and expectations. Bidding. Intro to Zoom. Explaining chats. GroupMe. Balance. Transition. And then Parley Pro. Okay, that's a good list. Let's say for next chat, and I'll go through and highlight. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 items. And let's say 3 months, so 5 items a month. I'll do welcome to the region, history, contact info, acronym, and intro to, and group me for next chat. Then I'll do conferences, how to work with an NCC, regional duties and expectations, bidding, kind of like all the conferencey related things, Parley Pro for the next one, because then we'll already have been at business conference. And then the list of resources, intro to Zoom, explaining chats, balance, and transition for the last one. Okay, I like it. I think that'll be very fair and easy to do. Cool. I will send out another when is good to just kind of like this one for whoever is interested in coming to the chat to just put their availability for me to consider. And that'll get sent out. This was our January chat. February, it'll be after the business conference. So probably the week of the probably the week of the 20th, but that'll come out later. Cool. Okay, open forum. Does anyone have any last things to throw out there, discuss, talk about? Cool. Well, y'all have a wonderful holiday weekend. Are all of you kind of in school or starting school Tuesday? Yeah. Well, enjoy the last kind of moments of your break, soak it all up, enjoy it, have fun. I mean, I'm so happy that I'm only taking 6 hours now. Like, y'all don't even know. I have so much free time with myself, so I'm gonna be able to work on so many SWCR things. It's gonna be lit. So y'all have a wonderful time. I'm just thinking like like school has started for me, but school is such a non-issue that like I basically feel like I'm still on break, which is awesome. If y'all have any questions or you need me for anything, always feel free to reach out and ask. But thank you all. Have a good night.